everybody, Zon gets 134 here.
Average Joe Squad here.
I'm just Cody.
And welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen, the show where we live in a society. I'm the Clown Prince of Crime. And with me, my ha-ha host. And our new friend here.
I went to medical school, damn it, I'm a doctor.
And our new friend here.
The Lost.
Yeah, so...
I am the Lost.
He really
the original
is.
Guest star.
So, we've actually... as you all know, we have a couple Lost episodes that we've been trying to redo over the last couple of episodes we've done. You'll probably remember that when we talked about the Batman in the Tim Burton Joel Schumacher Batman one, we had a Lost episode where we were doing that. Well, Cody here was actually supposed to be our first ever guest on this show, which unfortunately went to Lee, but I mean not unfortunately, but because
it sucks the episode was lost.
Yeah, I know, because it was a good episode, but basically. In the halcyon days where we were still filming this on phones, we were trying to get around the fact that my phone, because our early ones we could only do like 40 minutes.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm so glad we actually upgraded because that fucking sucked.
It was like 40 minutes before you had to like stop.
So then we had to use your phone.
Now we can go an hour, like 2 hours now.
Yeah, no, we've actually, but
we have the technology.
One day I would like us to do the what we did that podcast on, because that was a great podcast and I was kind of sad we got
adaptations.
Yeah, we're talking about adaptations, but that's what we're doing tonight.
No,
if you could get by, we're referencing. We're finally going to review, because we wanted to do this when this movie first came out.
As you can tell by the title down here in the little corner.
Also, follow us here. Hopefully when I get the Twitter page up one of these days.
And if you're a hater, there's a red box right up here where you can go.
It's mighty tasty. But yeah, we're doing Joker. Yeah, the
going to Clown Town.
Oh. So like we wanted to see this when it came out, but then like basically just the fact that like
people started going nuts over it.
Yeah, like and like the fact that there was threats of violence to go into these movies.
The
I'm
U.S. military's putting out a warning.
I'm like,
as soon as I got that, I'm like, okay, I know something in our town. Probably nothing was going to happen. I mean, nothing did happen.
Yeah.
But when a warning comes out from the military, I'm not taking chances.
Now the media is basically just constantly ranting and raving at this film because they wanted a shooting from it. But yeah, for you. So right off the bat, spoilers if you haven't seen it yet.
Are we getting into spoilers?
Well, we will, but I kind of want to it's kind of a setup thing, real quick.
Yo, when you're holding that drink there, just totally off topic. Looks like he's got something like zombies. He's got a power up, like when it was glowing.
Power chug.
Yeah, we're trying to. We have to have the light to the side here because normally it's where he's sitting, so it might look a little different from the rest of ours.
I've done goofed everything up.
You thought about putting it on the floor, and every time you look down, you get fucking blinded.
Yeah.
So, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. I know it's a few months old. It just came out on DVD and Blu-ray like a week or two ago.
And 4K.
And so yeah.
VHS.
I'm also going to warn, we're probably going to get into some heavy stuff because this deals with mental illness and some other stuff. So if that doesn't make you feel comfortable.
Slight rated R podcast here. Slightly.
So like if it makes you feel uncomfortable or if I mean,
because I'm going to be very honest, as someone who deals with his own fair share of mental health related issues, this movie definitely made me uncomfortable. So again, if you felt uncomfortable in the movie, we're going to be dealing with some pretty heavy hitting topics. So, and if at any point you guys feel like a little uncomfortable at all, please feel free to stop the video and watch something else. At the end of the day, whatever you're watching, it's not worth being uncomfortable over.
Now I do want to say this. That's not necessarily a knock on the movie.
No,
definitely not.
Because I don't think you could have done this movie in a more like PG version.
Yeah, no,
For me personally, it was done well for the material it had, and actually I thought it did pretty well with as far as like accuracy, at least to my knowledge. Yeah. It wasn't like too far off of anything. Yeah. But like as far as like the actual like. It would be like you can't do like a PG Deadpool either.
Oh,
no, it's like same boundary.
That is some like I'm so happy that Disney was like, no, the next Deadpool 3 will be R. I'm like, well, hell yeah, it has to be. You can't do a damn Deadpool movie that's PG-13 and don't any of you mention Once Upon a Deadpool. You all know that's horse shit.
I learned
if I see Once Upon a Deadpool in the comments, I'm gonna be pissed.
You never listened to me, man. I just mentioned it like a minute ago.
I'm sorry. But you know that don't count.
You're just mad he was better in Green Lantern.
We don't bring that up. We don't talk about that here.
As you can tell.
One day we'll talk about that movie. I like my worst adaptations.
Oh, that's
worse at it. Actually, I don't even brought that up that day.
no.
We should have.
Yeah. Well, because I was mostly wanting to talk about like adaptation as like a whole, like whether it's good or not, and like what makes a good adaptation for the most part. And I kind of steer us away from comic books because I want to talk about like
We'll talk about the
books
Spawn
and
movie.
movies and. Yeah, that's a movie I want to see.
Yeah, getting back to Joker.
But yeah, so like I said,
man
you know,
of the hour.
spoilers, and you know, if this kind of thing makes you uncomfortable, I mean, we will try to be funny. We'll probably say words like shit, ass, pee, poopy, caca,
Knock knock.
knock knock,
A lot of knock.
a lot of knock knock. But
Like I said, this is Clown Town.
yeah, so
It's a real comedy.
but you know, before we really dive into it, I have to admit, when this movie came out, I really didn't expect a lot of the fact that they referenced like Batman at all in this, because like they were talking about so much that this is going to focus on Joker. Like
It was really going to be an Elseworlds movie.
yeah, like I was honestly expecting nothing like. Because like the only thing I knew that they were doing in trailers was the fact that they said Gotham, and they showed Arkham Asylum, which looks way cleaner than any other Arkham Asylum I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was like, it's not even on an island. I'm like,
No,
man,
it's
this is a departure.
Yeah, no,
it
but,
actually looks like a regular like.
Like a hospital.
yeah, it doesn't look like Amadeus Arkham got cuckoo and turned his island mansion into a resort for criminals. God,
Poison Ivy made the place look so much better at the end of the Arkham game.
no, she really did. Although at Arkham Knight shows it's really fallen into bad times.
Spruce the place up.
But yeah, no, like the fact that we even saw like Bruce, Alfred, the Waynes at all was honestly surprising to me when I watched this, because I was like,
A very young Bruce.
well, yeah, because he's
Well, we
obviously
see Thomas Wayne doing something else other than getting shot.
but
That in itself is a victory.
actually you're not wrong.
He broke the Uncle Ben curse.
I honestly
And
wonder.
Spoiler, he still died at the end of the damn movie anyway, so it don't matter.
Yeah, because if you're Thomas and Martha Wayne,
You die.
and you have a son named Bruce.
You die.
Well,
have to.
sometimes you die.
You have to.
Sometimes Bruce gets shot, and Martha goes crazy and becomes the Joker. Yeah, Flashpoint. Right? I mentioned it. But yeah, no, I was really surprised by that, just because of the fact that, like, for one, they give Joker a name, Arthur Fleck. I was like, you're giving him a name and it's not Jack Napier? Color me impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too big into like the origin and like the comics and stuff, so I can't really fact check that. But I thought it was different too. I've never heard of the name given.
Well, because that's the thing. Joker really actually never has an alias. The most usually we get is if he's not Joker, his
Jack
name is
Napier.
Well, that, or as like the Telltale games, he just calls himself John Doe. Because even he does not remember who he is.
Right.
It's actually a very big part of Alan Moore's The Killing Joke.
Yeah, because
That
like
he gives this origin, and then at the end of it, he even just totally
States.
credits himself as an unreliable narrator.
which is kind of funny, because like Alan Moore basically did that because he's like, I don't want to upset people who have their own idea of how the Joker was created, but like it became such an important part of his iconography that like the Joker has always had that, and I think it always helps to work so that like you can always say that this is the same Joker no matter what canon.
No, man, he's lived forever. He's the Pale Man.
To be fair, I knew the whole time he was bullshitting Batman, and even Batman.
Oh yeah,
himself.
Batman trolls him at the end.
Yeah,
of
no,
that comic. It's the funniest thing.
I'll tell you about that after we're done. But yeah, no, I like to be honest, like with the fact that it was so radically different, I honestly didn't expect any of that. And it was a nice surprise to see them actually show that this is the Joker, like not just that it's a guy named, because that was one of my worries going into the film. But
Is that they were going to establish this is the origin story?
of a Joker.
Or at least for like the movies.
Yeah. Which I don't know, like if they since they're remaking Batman like for the 9th time, I don't know if this will be the same Joker or not, just because of the fact that, you know, he's like an older man, and when he becomes the Joker and Bruce is still a child.
Yeah.
So like Batman's beating on like an 80-year-old man.
Yeah. So like this movie, like it's I would assume he's like late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
At the very
And,
least.
like Bruce has to be like what 12?
Yeah,
Probably 10. Well, they show his
9 or 10. Usually
they show
he's
Thomas and Martha getting shot at the end of the movie, and given that this obviously takes place in pretty rapid succession, probably a couple weeks.
yeah.
He has to be right around the time. It has to be 10 because
actually-
isn't that when they got shot in the comics?
Well, it changes. Sometimes he's 10, sometimes he's 8. It's usually between 8 and 10.
kind of varies.
Yeah. It just depends on the writer. And usually he's 25 when he returns to Gotham as Batman. So, that's like anywhere from 15 to 17 years.
And then in 2020, he stops being Batman.
But I do think
Batman Beyond.
I do think Arthur is much younger than he looks, just because like all the amounts of psychotropic drugs he's taking to stabilize his condition, and the fact that like he clearly doesn't eat because of depression. Like he's really emaciated in this film. Like whenever show like you can see his ribs.
That
and
was
stuff,
one of the
like,
parts that made me uncomfortable because that kind of stuff always makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, like as you can tell, like he doesn't really eat. Like his mom even says, like, "Are you eating?" And it's like, because like he almost just survives on alcohol and like cigarettes.
I was gonna say cigarettes. That man didn't care where he was at. That he had a ciggy in hand.
The only place he didn't was at the beginning. He was smoking outside the hospital, and then later on he just stopped giving a shit about that even.
Yeah.
Because I want to say even in the 70s that was a rule you couldn't smoke in a hospital.
Oh yeah, no. That like I think basically you couldn't smoke in hospitals once they invented like compressed air.
Yeah, I'll say oxygen tanks, stuff like that.
Yeah, because those are very flammable and explosive. So yeah, like basically like Arthur himself is an interesting character, just because like for most of the movie you feel really bad for him until
you get a lot of sympathy like for him, like at least most if not all the movie.
yeah, like
I think that actually with me probably led to a little bit of the uncomfortableness was that basically like I know the dude is the Joker. Basically, I know he is supposed to be this evil character.
Oh yeah.
I've known my whole life this guy is an evil character.
You don't want to have.
I'm like
sympathy for him.
why am I feeling sorry for him? The dude literally becomes a monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird balance. Like I'm pretty sure that was what they went for.
yeah.
I'll say, and I love that in movies, especially like TV shows and stuff. Like I like having a villain character where I can not necessarily relate to.
Makes them human.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm a real big fan of Naruto. They do that with
Yeah.
their villains a lot. Like they'll give the villains a lot of compassion. You get a reasoning behind. It's like an actual like driven motive to why they do the things they do.
Yeah, although sometimes
And then-
Naruto can overdo it.
I agree. And then you get with this where you see not necessarily in the beginning all the abuse and stuff, but you realize what could be real and what's not. And you see like especially with, like the asylum papers he finds out later, all the abuse stuff he went through. You actually start to like really kind of understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Especially the subway scene where he kills those 3 guys. Spoiler alert.
That honestly, that scene when he shot 3 guys, I'm gonna be very honest. I was like, okay, these guys are obviously pieces of shit.
Yeah.
I don't feel too bad. I mean, I don't ever necessarily want anybody to die.
I think for me
But in terms of the story, I was like, okay, these guys kind of asked for it.
Yeah.
And now depending on how you view this movie, especially because like with the way the ending kind of plays, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. I feel like the reason we saw that, and this is just me because like if this is all from Arthur's point of view, he's trying to justify why he murdered those men. Like for all we know, they could have just been like Murray says, like they were just these, elite stock guys just making their way, like they work for the stock market or something, and they're just making their way home.
Yeah.
So like, especially like how cold and ruthlessly he like.
And he used those women as like an excuse.
Yeah, like for me, like because like especially when he finally admits it on the Tonight Show. I know it had a name, but I just call it the Tonight Show because
It's Tonight with Murray Williams, isn't it? Isn't that what it's called in the movie?
remember.
Tonight with Murray something.
Yeah,
I can't remember
but
Murray's last name.
basically it's the Tonight Show, especially because like he has like an Ed McMahon like sidekick.
Yeah.
But like he basically says, I'm tired of pretending that killing those men wasn't funny. Like so to me, it's like those men could have actually been scummy, or they could have been not.
It's kind of basically left up to what do you think in the movie is real?
Yeah, and not only that, like, do you think that this Joker really is sympathetic, or is he just trying to make excuses? Because to me, I do get the misery, because to me the Joker is always miserable, because at the end of the day, like he sees the world as this dark nihilistic place.
He's even said in the scene with his mom in the hospital, I've
Yeah.
never had a happy day in my life. I've never been happy a day in my life.
Yeah, and
That's
in that regard, I almost feel like they make we've seen movies where they've made the villain sympathetic before, kind of like Spider-Man 2, with Doc Ock. The guy's wife dies and he gets spawned into these arms. That's a pretty sympathetic thing. With this, it's like, for me, it's like I want to be sympathetic, and I am to a degree, but then it's kind of like, again, as someone who deals with mental health, it gets to a point, your mental health is not an excuse for you to do what you do.
Yeah,
it comes to a point, you need to stop using it as a crutch.
Because the other thing that really makes me unsettled about the whole movie is that mental, it's more like a nervous system condition where basically, his emotions don't represent what he feels. So when he's nervous or upset or angry about something, he goes into those laughing fits you see.
Which that's a real thing.
It is a real thing. Yeah, it is a real thing.
Because I know that they debated in the movie whether or not it was real.
Yeah.
Well, they also said it was due to brain injury.
Yeah, which later when they revealed the papers that his mother, I think, hit him really hard on the head. Or
Well, it was the boyfriend.
Yeah, or her boyfriend.
Oh yeah, because she let him abuse him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She let it go.
Yeah.
Which that whole sequence fucked me up pretty bad.
No, that was
oh my god.
No, that like, especially like when the I guess the insane asylum associates or like the cops are like talking to her, and she basically just looks dead inside the whole time.
Yeah.
Mostly because she thinks that kid is Thomas Wayne's. That was another thing that was really weird to me because like I think
that was a weird side plot.
Especially because like I think they were trying to imply that Thomas Wayne wasn't as good a man as like the comics like to portray him.
Kind of like how Telltale the games do that.
Well, the Telltale's
to a degree.
Telltale's less. It outright says. Like, there have been times in the comics where they've been like, oh, no, Thomas Wayne was on the payroll for gangsters, and then, of course, they find out, oh, no, he wasn't. He just helped, like a gangster got shot, and he, like
how they mentioned in Long Halloween.
Long Halloween, where he, where Falcone's father gets healed up by Thomas. But here, they kind of vacillate, because, like, they kind of want to make him, like an allegory for, like, I feel like Trump in some ways, just because, like, he or maybe not Trump, but like a pretty slimy politician where like he says like pretty rude things about, actually more reminds me of Mitt Romney, especially like where he like kind of badmouths like the lower class, like that footage of him talking about how he doesn't care about the 47% that are like unwealthy.
Yeah.
But then like other times you can clearly tell he does want to help people.
I mean, the scene near the end when he and Arthur finally come face to face, at the beginning of it, he's trying really. He's at least trying to be gentlemanly about it, and then it just gets to a point where he just kind of snaps.
Yeah, he even like feels, because he even I think kind of realizes that Arthur's kind of sick, and tries to be nice. But then like Arthur starts, he has the laugh, and he just wants to be loved by Thomas, and then Thomas punches him in the gut.
He thinks he's his dad,
and then he's like,
He just wants to, my dad should come into my baseball games,
Yeah. And his dad, and he's just like, touch my fucking kid again and I'll fucking kill you. I'm like, I did not expect Thomas Wayne to say the F-bomb. At least not this Thomas Wayne.
And then popped him in the mouth.
You think this is funny?
Oh no, it was his nose, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He used the blood on his nose.
Yeah, to make the smile.
Yeah.
Because like, I will admit, they do try to really point out the things that are wrong with Arthur's life. He just got released from a mental hospital. He's in a dead end job.
He's taking care of his mom.
He's taking care of his mom, who's I think agoraphobic, or at least they kind of, or at least something. There's
some kind of, I think some kind of. It almost, if I remember correctly, it's like some kind of like schizophrenia.
Maybe schizophrenia. He gets jumped by a bunch of like hoodlums that steal his sign just to beat the shit out of him.
Oh, I actually kind of laughed at that scene. I ain't gonna lie. When I seen the sign break over his face, I was like, oh man, that dude's having a bad day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, then you have that scene near the end with the midget, and I'm like,
oh my God,
they had to have made that you would at least feel tempted to laugh.
So like,
which I'm like, because it's like we told our friend, I was like, I felt bad laughing at that scene, but my God, the way it came across, it was fucking funny.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't know if they intended it to be funny, or if it just it ended up that way.
Like, to me, I think the whole...
It was almost like a nice relief. It's like such a heavy scene.
It's like black humor almost, basically.
Yeah. Because not only that, like that scene literally is only like a couple scenes after he smothers his mother in the hospital. That scene actually horrified me more than what he did to the dude. Like where Like he just coldly does it.
That dude kind of
just zero remorse.
Yeah, there's like he just
face.
emotionlessly kills his mom, and I'm like, yeah, no, that scene actually really unnerved me when I watched it. Like I actually put my hand over my mouth because I was like,
same. I was like, holy fuck.
yeah, it was a rough time. I will admit, I do think they paint a really good picture of Gotham City in this. You know, where like it's so corrupt, like they're cutting like mental health funding, which how very realistic of you.
Yeah, really.
That the fact that like there's clearly a growing resentment of the lower and middle class to the elite of Gotham City. To like the point where like he called everyone clowns, so that's what. And you see that part was also why I think that it's not real, because like everyone's like decides, oh yeah, no, he called us clowns, so we're all gonna wear clown masks and start a movement like that. I'm like, yeah, it's a little on the nose.
Yeah, and which we'll get into that. Do we want to get into that now and discuss that?
The fact that I think the whole thing is my theory.
Yeah, which it's interesting. You mentioned that to me today before we filmed, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned to you like. When the movie was done, I had the same exact thought.
Yeah.
That basically it was kind of like one of those movies. In a lot of ways, it really reminds me of Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And that the Joker himself, as always, is a very unreliable narrator. And for those who don't know, like I don't know, do you know the whole unreliable narrator trope? Yeah. Basically, for those of you that don't know, the unreliable narrator trope is basically like the narrator of the story you can't necessarily trust. Because there's either inconsistencies, there's changes to stuff. Like I don't know any specific books offhand that.
And this could be planned, or it could be like just
you believe like the narrator himself doesn't know.
Yeah,
yeah. So to give a couple ideas, first the first hint I got was of course the girlfriend he had. Because there's a lot of times where she shows up and then just kind of disappears or fades off.
That stuff fucked me up pretty bad when I was watching. That really made me uncomfortable.
Because basically he kind of grows an uncomfortable attraction to this woman he meets in the elevator going up to his apartment. And like they kind of form a connection where she's like, oh, what a rough day.
Yeah.
And so and later on after he kills those men, he goes to her apartment and it shows that they might have had sex, because like he knocks on her door, and
later at the comedy club she's there basically with him, and then when his mom's in the hospital she's there
with him, but then like she disappears for large portions after she shows up. Particularly with the comedy club where he botches his joke, which is very much like the Killing Joke, where he like the scene when he talks to his pregnant wife where he's like, she's like, how'd it go? And he's like, I don't know. I think I wasn't very funny. I botched a couple of the gags, which is what he does there. But like here, after he does the first couple of botched jokes, it seems like everything goes well for him after that. And then it shows him like talking on the street. Well, later after he basically finds out that his mom abused him, he goes into the woman's apartment again. And she clearly freaks out because clearly all that didn't happen. And then they show you actually like that she was never there.
That's actually where I first started thinking, the stuff with his mom. Because in the beginning, you see like he has an okay relationship with his mom. Like he's taking care of her. Like they
he bathes her.
They spend time together. They watch TV.
Yeah, he's like, don't be late for Wheel of Fortune. It's real wholesome stuff. And then you read like the abuse stuff, and then you see the stuff with his girlfriend. And how that wasn't real, and it makes you think, was
what in this movie was real?
Yeah. For me, another thing.
Basically, that in itself is the biggest example I can think of an unreliable narrator.
For me,
that the storylines don't make sense, and eventually it gets to a point where there's so many inconsistencies that don't add up that eventually the narrative just cracks. Basically,
for me, another thing, and it was very small. So and me being the movie detective that I think I am, when he's talking after he gets beat up and he sits down at his bench when he's at his locker, the guy who gives him the gun is like, you just got out of the mental hospital, and it shows him banging his head against the window, and I noticed that right there the only time that was one of the. Are you playing with my Otonin shurikens?
Yeah.
Because I never cleaned
totally
my back seat
here,
out.
people.
But so it shows everything in white. That's like the only time you see like pure white in the film.
I didn't notice that actually until you mentioned it, and now I can totally see.
And not only that, to be fair, I only thought about this when he's talking to his social worker at the very end. every time he went to the social worker before, the room was small and dingy and dirty, like his life. But when it cuts to at the very end, when he's in the hot, because like at the end of the film, it looks like he gets away. You know, he's still on the cop car, but he clearly gets away, like there's very much an inconsistency there, especially because like
see, I took that as past and present.
Well, I mean,
I took the whole movie itself as past, and whatever was happening.
So
in
basically,
the asylum
like he's
was
sitting
present.
in the car rethinking over everything.
That's how
well, you see,
I took it.
But the thing is, after all that happens, he sees the vision of the Wayne's dead with Bruce, and then she asks him, you know, something funny. He's like, "You wouldn't get it," as if that is his way of saying like this whole thing was just a sick joke to him that as he's sitting in the chair, or that like that's like his way of trying to excuse why he's such a like. Just because, like, the Joker I know would do that. Like, because to quote Arkham City when Doctor Strange interviews him, after he basically retells the Killing Joke, he's like, I don't believe you. So, like, and so he starts spouting off other origins for himself. And Strange has said, you've told that one 12 times. And you've told, like a bunch of other different ones. The only consistent factor in all of them is Batman is in it. Which here, the only thing that is any sort of consistency for me, at least, is the importance of the Waynes to Gotham, and like how their death changed Gotham.
Also, not necessarily to him, but to Gotham. Yeah.
Especially because like, and then of course the weird part at the end where after he clearly kills the social worker and he walks off with bloody footsteps. And starts dancing and running.
That's Life by Frank
Well, no,
Sinatra.
that like it kind of looks like he's running back and forth as if referencing the fact that he will keep getting out again and again and again.
He'll just break out.
And to be fair, I could be wrong. This is just my theory, just because of the fact that that one scene where he's banging his head against the window, and that scene with them at the, you know, where he's talking to the social worker, kind of detailing his life. It almost makes me think that the social worker was is just in his head, or like that he basically used her because like he's trying to make like his own origin story. And just the fact that like that's the only time we see any sort of like white. When he goes to the asylum in the film, it's kind of a grungy white, but everywhere else it's gray or a different color. Like there's no pure white, and to me, like the pure white kind of represents like the real Joker, you know, the bleached skin. But to be fair, I could be wrong, but that was just my own personal theory on the film, especially like the fact that he's like, you wouldn't get it, like clearly, like to him, that was just a big sick joke. Right. And of course, the other part, you know, when he tells Murray, "I'm tired of pretending that killing those men wasn't funny." Like it's at that moment we're seeing the real like Arthur.
That's what I figured. It was at least from the point where they were chasing him. At least the cops were chasing him. Is when I was like, "This is probably where it's starting to like. This is it."
Well, I mean, especially because
like the tone of the movie shifts.
Yeah. Because the first half of the film, it's almost like a psychological thriller.
It's slow. There's definitely a build up, but it's slow.
It kind of reminds me of Silence of the Lambs a little bit, and just like the interplay of, you know, like Hannibal Lecter, basically. That's kind of what I really was reminded of about it, as well as anybody who's ever seen the movie Zodiac.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That kind of reminded me of it a lot, probably because they kind of take place in like the same era, roughly. So maybe that was kind of, I don't know, maybe the director looked to Zodiac for inspiration. Because I know that's like a big movie with critics that like it.
From what I understand, he looked at The Laughing Man, you know, the film that inspired the look.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver.
Which you can see a lot of similarities with Taxi Driver in this movie.
And I think also something called The King of Comedy. I've
heard of that. I can't remember what it's about, but I've heard of that. It sounds very, very familiar.
But yeah, The Laughing Man, actually, no, it's not The Laughing Man. It's The Man Who Laughs. There's actually...
And that movie is fucking creepy.
There's actually
a creepy movie.
There's actually a sequel to Batman Year One called Batman: The Man Who Laughs, and it's about the first time he ever dealt with the Joker. It's, you know, the end of Year One where Gordon's like, I've got a friend coming in because there's this guy called the Joker. He said he's gonna poison the Gotham water supply. That Batman: The Man Who Laughs literally is them investigating their first run-in with the Joker.
Well, that kind of reminds me a little bit as well as the end of Batman Begins.
Yeah,
with the card.
Well, that's actually what they're. That's what they're.
Is that a reference to
that?
Yeah,
it's a reference to Year One, because at the end of Year One, it shows Gordon on the roof with the first lighting of the bat signal, and he's like, I've got a it's never a dull day in Gotham City. Someone's trying to poison the Gotham Reservoir, calls himself the Joker, but I've got a friend coming. The card I think actually is from The Man Who Laughs, because that was the Joker's original calling card back in Batman and Robin #1, or just Batman #1, with the first introduction of the Joker and Robin.
That's the Golden Age one, correct?
Oh yeah, the very. Speaking of, I love the fact that they've got little Bruce dolled up in the same kind of outfit Adam West would wear, like with the turtleneck, and him sliding down the pole of his treehouse like he's going to the.
There were a lot of nice little nods.
The fact that Alfred's kind of paunchy is a reference to the fact that Golden Age Alfred was kind of chubby.
Yeah. Well, Golden Age Alfred and the modern Alfred are like almost two different characters.
Well, the modern Alfred actually we have to thank for the Adam West show, because that's where we actually get the traditional look of Alfred. It was actually that. Because the original Alfred was like this weird, goofy character that would kind of stumble into Batman and Robin's crimes because he thought himself a detective. But then he ends up dying and then turned into like an evil zombie villain and then becomes the regular Alfred that everybody knows.
Comics. Hashtag.
Which is why after Crisis on Infinite Earths, they're like, no, year one Alfred is the regular Alfred. Because Alfred wasn't always a staple of the comics.
Alfred was for a while. Alfred kind of went the way of the original Batwoman, Kathy Kane, the original Batgirl, Betty Kane, and Batmite, along with Ace the Bat Hound.
But getting back on track, what do you guys think of my theory? Because I think it's at least a solid theory, but like if you guys interpret it another way or like
Cody, do you wanna go first, or should I?
I mean, I more or less interpreted kind of the same. Like I said, I visioned the movie as like whatever happened was in the asylum was present.
Yeah.
And then everything else was past. And the only things that I don't think were necessarily real was his relationship with that woman.
Yeah.
The relationship with his mom, at least as far as the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know about the reasoning for killing the 3 people. I have theories that maybe he imagined the woman.
Okay.
Because never in the movie was there stated a witness.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Never in the movie was there stated there was a female witness, because we never see what happened to her.
No,
There was 3 shots.
Kind of just disappears. Basically.
And then like the one guy gets off and he just basically executes him on the steps.
Right, so I don't...
Man, that was rough watching him execute that guy.
Oh,
yeah.
That was like, oh, Jesus.
That's why I almost think that could have been made up as a reason.
Yeah.
So for him morally to himself to justify it.
Yeah.
That's how I took that, and then everything else I took as fact.
Okay.
Because at least as a movie standpoint and to the average viewer, I don't see the average viewer going that in depth to understand that.
Yeah.
So I could see, as far as like a movie standpoint, that's the way it could go.
And that's fair.
But especially like the past and present stuff with the asylum, I didn't notice like the different changes in like the actual like asylum itself.
Yeah.
I might have to take another look at that.
Well, I only say that just because the fact that like the only thing that was consistent for me was the social worker. That was kind of why I thought maybe he was making the whole thing up, just because of the fact that she's the only thing that's consistent, and she kind of acts like a moral compass for Arthur in the story.
Well, and he even mentions like, you always ask me the same questions.
Yeah, that too.
You never listen.
Almost like she doesn't really care.
Yeah,
at least to him.
And to be fair, like at the end though, she's like some fun. Like she does seem to kind of care. Like she does seem to want to help him, but then like he kind of closes off and just hums the soundtrack, because apparently he can hear the soundtrack, which I'm like, ooh. Let's keep the fourth wall firmly in place.
To kind of add to what you said, Adam, because this is my theory on it.
A game theory?
Oh my God, stop! I never even watched that. I don't even know what you're referencing.
Consider yourself lucky.
I probably will, but kind of because like as you and probably most of our viewers know, repeat viewers, I'm a big Golden Age comic book fan. For me, the Golden Age has always been like one of those really interesting eras, because it's like they're trying to get everything together. And there's so many like little interesting things that happen, like
remember when
Batman and Superman fighting World War II, which is interesting as hell.
Remember when Superman used to beat up wife beaters?
Or how about that time he launched?
His first issue, he fights a guy who abuses his wife. Literally, that's the first story of
in the 80s. There's a anti-cigarette ad where he literally hurls a cigarette dealer into the fucking stratosphere, which is the funniest shit I have ever watched.
Okay. There's an even funnier. There's a Superman peanut butter commercial where Lex captures Superman and threatens to kill him with kryptonite unless he tells Lex the secret to his peanut butter. why it tastes so good. And Superman literally says, never. I would rather die than tell you the secret of my peanut
My
butter.
fucking God. But, so kind of getting back to, like I said, I've always enjoyed the Golden Age stuff. And as a kid growing up, like as a Batman fan, you know, specifically Batman, the animated series, and then getting into the comics a little later, reading like Batman, the Ultimate Guide, I definitely picked up very early on, okay, the Joker has different origins. You know, but I didn't until later when I got back into comics.
There's still no definitive one. Is
No,
there?
No.
I'm gonna get to that too.
The most definitive thing is that he was once a thug known as the Red Hood.
Yeah, but what got me later thinking about it, like once I became like, you know, I got older, you know, and I could understand a lot more like complicated like literature tropes and stuff, was that kind of like going back to the unreliable narrator thing. To me, the whole movie is kind of like what you said, where basically like what's in the asylum is the present and the rest of the past. Except in the way I see it, the only thing in that movie that's real is when he's in the asylum. All the rest of the stuff he's making up. Because to me, how many times have we seen the Joker come up with like, well, this is what happened to me, and then he comes up with something totally different.
Yeah.
To me, what it is, you know, like, how many times has he done this roundabout? And kind of like what you mentioned, where we see the social worker a couple of times, and it's like a constant. For me, every time we saw that the social worker, to me, that could be a representation of Joker coming up with a different origin.
I was talking
Basically, like he's told this lady so many different stories, kind of like what he did with Hugo Strange in Arkham City. Basically, you know, it's like he's told so many different origins of himself. He doesn't know what really happened anymore. And to me, it's kind of like near the end when he's like going through the hallway and he's got the blood, like the footprints. I didn't see the blood footprints as like an actual, like he killed the social worker. To me, because he's still chained up, you know, and he gets out. What I saw it as is the blood footsteps are basically like he's always gonna have this blood on him. You know what I mean? Like this blood on his hands kind of deal.
You think it was more symbiotic?
Yeah, it was like a symbiotic thing. I don't think it was like he actually killed the worker and was like in, because there's no other blood on him, just underneath his shoes.
No, true.
I was talking to a buddy of mine about the Killing Joke and stuff like that in the movie. What if he never? His theory was, what if he never got out of the asylum, and all that was, like not necessarily imagined, or would it be? But the movie never happened, and it's just him in the asylum.
I mean, that's kind
basically
of
my theory.
That's kind of also
I don't
my
think
theory.
anything happened.
And he just never got
Because
out.
again, I'm so used to this that the Joker doesn't know his origin.
Yeah.
We don't know the Joker's definitive origin because even he doesn't fucking know
because
what happened.
he's
so crazy he
Because
doesn't know.
if that's the case, then a younger Bruce could make sense.
Yeah.
Because the timing could be off.
Well, no, it could just be that he heard he heard it on the news, like that they were talking, you know, like because that's going to be big news.
Or even like if you're in an asylum, you know, like,
like
as someone who's like,
you
I don't
could
know
hear-
if any of you have watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, I've seen one
Jack
too.
Nicholson.
It's been a long time, but I've seen it.
There's a lot of mental hospitals like that where they'll have like, you know, kind of like a rec area where everybody can like hang out and stuff, kind of like almost like a nursing home almost.
Yeah.
And there's TV. So who's to say that
Yeah.
he didn't see it on TV?
Oh yeah.
And then just imagine like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I did cause that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how
to the viewer, not me.
yeah, sorry. Basically, it's kind of like to me similar is the tale of the Zodiac Killer, and yeah, this is getting a little heavy on this, but for I can't remember exactly how many it is, but there's a certain number of confirmed victims the Zodiac had, but then he claimed responsibility for a shit ton more.
Oh yeah.
You know, who's to say that the Joker in this, like, he wasn't involved at all with Bruce losing his parents, but he basically was like, oh, well, I did that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, kind of like grabbing onto like, well, I like the center of attention, basically. Like, I did that.
Because that is the thing with the Joker. He always wants to be the center of attention. That's why he always plans really dramatic crimes, is because he wants people to remember him.
Yeah. You actually see that in the movie where he says, people do see me.
Yeah.
Like people would walk right over me if I was laying on the subway streets, like those guys did.
Yeah.
But now people see me. You know, it almost it makes you think. That's why, and that I actually stand by the whole subway thing, that the girl necessarily wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And he just did it.
Yeah.
Well, and with his mom being a schizophrenic, who's to say that he himself isn't schizophrenic? Even maybe to a more increasing degree due to, you know, the injuries that he got from the boyfriend abusing him.
Did we see
if that is even real?
Yeah,
Did we see him do like that interpretive dance before that subway scene?
Oh yeah, I think he pretty much always did the dancing.
Yeah.
I'll say,
I want to say,
'Cause remember,
I
when he
interpret it
gets
as,
the
like,
gun at first, he does that
yeah,
like,
actually,
when he's
yeah,
watching TV.
yeah, he's
Oh,
playing
okay,
around
okay,
when he's
okay.
playing around the gun. He's kind of doing the dance thing
oh,
too.
okay, yeah.
That was always interesting because I was kind of not really sure what that dancing was supposed to signify, other than like he's trying to center himself.
Yeah. Kind of like maybe like a meditative thing.
Yeah.
Because like even me, like sitting and thinking about it, I couldn't think of any movie or any like anything I've watched that would be a reference to. I'm sure it's a reference to something.
Maybe it's a reference to Spoonie's review of Dirty Harry, where he does the Apocalypse Now thing, and he's
You see, now me
We'll talk about Spoonie.
now me away from the comics, I took it as necessarily more so the mental health thing, and that was just whenever he had the gun, he felt more himself.
yeah. I think
not,
that is
not
true.
necessarily killing somebody, but just having the gun.
Having the power.
Yeah, exactly, it was power. Is what kind of made him feel more himself, and that's actually how I took the dancing. It was like
Yeah.
his coming out, like him being himself. You know.
And the Joker's often interpreted as gay because he says really gay things to Batman.
I would too.
Oh, now you've got a little bit of me in you too, Bats. Don't tell me it's not what you've always wanted. A lot of people are like, oh, that shows that Batman himself just wants to. He's either homophobic or he just doesn't want to prove how gay he is to the Joker. I'm like, maybe he doesn't want to be touched by the creepy clown man.
Yeah, really. I mean, there's an idea.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe
I don't
he
know
doesn't,
where you've been.
Yeah, that's like because like in Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, originally the Joker, Grant Morrison wanted to put him in drag and have like a Madonna bra on to really hit home the homoerotica between him and Batman, but DC oddly enough said no. Wow. Because the Joker tries to touch him during that, and he swats his hand. He's like, "Get your hands off me, you filthy freak!" Or like he calls him a freak. Like it's one of the few times where I've heard Batman actually call someone a freak. But like,
Well, with the Joker, it all makes sense.
well, then the thing with Arkham, like much like this, Arkham, A Serious House on Serious Earth, it kind of sounds like Batman himself is like having a fever dream that it's not really happening. Like for one,
Yeah.
like Max Z. Zeus in that has actual electric powers,
which isn't
which
a thing.
he doesn't. And he also kills Killer Croc. He literally stabs him with a spear and throws him off the roof of the asylum. Which I'm like, I don't think this is real.
Yeah, it's well, it kind of goes back to kind of like almost in a subjective manner. What is real?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and you actually almost, but it wasn't until like I said, like the last half hour of the movie, at least at the scene with his mom, or at least the asylum scene where he gets the papers, is when you have to start to question it.
Yeah, that really is where you question everything, because that's also where he himself starts questioning things.
Right.
Although knowing how like
Because
weird.
you see like the inner turmoil where he's like, no, my mom wasn't like this.
Yeah.
And you actually see in the beginning of the movie, she's this sweet lady. You know,
Yeah.
she's on time for Wheel of Fortune. Like she's
Like the worst thing she does is she believes that Thomas Wayne is Arthur's actual father.
Yeah, that's the only thing that always strike. And the way it's presented, you almost kind of feel like it is.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping, they weren't gonna kind of do that.
I kind of had a feeling it wasn't, because like the fact that like she seemed kind of senile, I was like, it's probably not.
Right.
Yeah, that was my thoughts originally as
Yeah,
well.
it's
but
not
then,
like
but then you get that scene where he's at the gate
Yeah.
with the butler, and that looked hella suspicious.
yeah.
But then you got to think, was that real?
Yeah.
Because the butler was like made it seem like they were hiding something. The Waynes were like hiding something about it.
You know what movie that reminds
Well, to
me
be fair,
of?
to me, I kind of interpreted that as Alfred, like, oh my god, like,
Get away from my family.
get away from my family.
Oh.
You're the son of that crazy woman. I am not letting that craziness affect my family again.
You know what-
But then again, that's just because I know Alfred.
You know
Right.
what movie that really reminds me of though is like what's real? What did I watch? What was real out of this? That really reminds me. I'm going to reference that incredibly shitty movie, Blair Witch Project 2.
Oh my god, you're referencing Blair Witch Book of Shadows.
But like no, but like do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
though?
do.
Like, where near the end of the movie where it's like the whole movie you saw one thing. And then like even if you had the VHS copy, because I know you probably don't know about this, but basically Blair Witch Book of Shadows 2 had stuff in it that you would only see
Yeah.
if you you had it on play so you could still see it, and you hit rewind on it. It's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
Oh, that's.
But
actually,
it really reminds me, like a lot of that parts of that movie were what actually happened. You know, what was real out of this? And like, cause like,
And even then, like at the end, like I even argued that the tape was messed up there too. Like
yeah,
when
so that kind of reminds me of what's going on here. But in this case, like the tape is actually Arthur's mind. Like what actually happened? Like what happened that was real? What happened that basically it was like he didn't like the brain like almost like blocked it out and like did something else to like kind of like repress memory a little bit.
Yeah.
It leads to a very confusing narrative.
Yeah. I do think that pretty much anything that bad that happened to Arthur, at least in that narrative, was the more consistent part of the narrative. Like pretty much anything that happened that was good for him was not. Although there is some even then like what was interesting to me because of all the memes I've seen of like Robert De Niro's character in this, I thought he was gonna be much more of an asshole than he wasn't. Like to me, I actually kind of thought like he even though he brought Arthur on, I kind of think he wanted to bring him on and kind of like
give him a chance to redeem himself.
Give him a chance to redeem himself, and even like maybe give him some tips. You know, it seemed like, you know, he just wanted to help this guy out.
Well, it's kind of like he's talking about like near the end, like Murray's talking about like, you know, I can tell you that not everybody out there is bad.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody out there is a bad person. And automatically at that point, because Arthur is like totally at that point gone.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Just the Joker.
Which is a shame
because he basically looks at him
wrong.
and it's just like you're a horrible person. You know, and it's almost like the way Robert De Niro's character reacts to it. You know, he's like, I'm a horrible person. Like it's like what are you talking about?
He said, you don't know nothing about me.
Yeah, and it's like because like the guy's like a comedian, but like I mean that's his job, you know, is to be a comedian. He's a Tonight Show comedian too.
It's a very narcissistic view of everything too.
Which
everything is shit.
Which I'd actually argue more nihilist. Which the Joker has always been very.
Nihilist is probably the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I get those two.
Well, to be fair, he's both. He's a narcissist and nihilistic. So like. Yeah. You know, like with like his like from like some of his lesser crimes in the comics, like the laughing fish shit. He knew that wasn't going to get him like a patent on fish. He just did it to
remember when he stole a kid's report card because he needed his dad's signature or something.
Yeah, no, like the Joker
probably resulting in that kid getting his ass beat.
Yeah, because like sometimes the Joker wants to murder people, and sometimes he just wants to like
stir the pot.
Give Gotham a wedgie.
Yeah.
But like it was interesting for me to see Maury be much less of a jerk. Like you can clearly tell he is kind of.
But do you even see that? Was the crowd even yells out, "Get him off!"
Yeah,
and you see, and he's still there, like talking to him, giving him a chance.
You know, and like, because like,
it may have been in like a cold, condescending way at times, but like it
reminds me of like
you kind of could tell like it was kind of like, you know, Maury's kind of dry, sarcastic humor, but like at the same time,
hosts have a certain. It's kind of like working in customer service almost. You have a customer service voice. If you're a late night talk show host, you have a certain voice you use. It's not necessarily totally you.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like because
you're almost like playing up to audience.
Because like Letterman was kind of like, because I actually really like Letterman because like he could be smarmy, but like you could tell that like deep down he was a genuinely nice guy. You know, like he had some opinions, but like when he talked to people, you could tell like both that he wanted to make people laugh, but he also wanted to like actually talk and connect with the people he's talking to.
Yeah, and I mean like a good example of that is when he kind of digging into my music knowledge here. He actually was the one. I'm pretty sure it's Letterman.
Yeah, bro.
He actually introduced.
I mean, if he doesn't bobble his head, he's not Leno. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was Letterman, and I'm sure because I get late night talk shows.
Apologies to Leno, I actually don't mind.
Because I don't watch late night talk show, but anyway.
Shout out Conan.
He actually inducted Pearl Jam into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he told this touching story of how like his kid was sick with something. I can't remember which.
That is
Leno.
And I'm not gonna. I think Leno was the one with the two of them that had like a child with an illness.
It might be Leno. I can't remember who. It probably is, but he inducted Pearl Jam into the Hall of Fame, and he talked about how like, you know, like my son was born with this disease, you know, and he wanted to learn how to play guitar. And he's like, Eddie Vedder sent my son a guitar that said like, you know, when you learn how to play, I want you to come up and play with us. And he actually has done that since, you know, and it's like that kind of emotional connection shows that it's like, you know, like, hey, like,
yeah,
these like as much as like talk show hosts can seem like they're assholes.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, they're
still people. Yeah,
they're still people.
like that was at least nice for me because I was afraid it was going to be kind of like in Dark Knight Returns with the Johnny Endocrine show.
I'll say, because you even see that in the dressing room.
Yeah,
where like even the producer like, hey,
I don't want to send him on.
Yeah,
with
what's
this.
especially with
it's
the
gonna make the
riots.
audience
yeah,
mad.
let's not send the clown out. He's still like, you know what, we'll give him a chance. We'll let him on.
Yeah, and even
That's how he wants to come out. That's how it'll come out.
and even when he's like, "Hey, do you mind calling me Joker?" Why would I do that? You called me that last time. He's like, oh, "Okay, sure, yeah." Like he actually seemed to like honestly want to give this
What
dude
will
a
work for
chance.
you,
Yeah.
basically.
It was really nice to see that because I didn't want him to just be like a blatant asshole. Because then I wouldn't have felt like nearly as
Wouldn't have felt bad when he just gets executed.
Yeah, he just gets
basically.
executed by Joker. Also, another fun reference to Dark Knight Returns, the sex lady he talks to before Joker, is a reference to the fact that Joker kills Dr. Ruth Wertheimer stand-in in the book. But yeah, like it was like I think that's one of the things that makes this movie work really well for me is that not everybody is just like because like a lesser film would have made some of the people that Joker killed deserve it. So you could have even more sympathy for the Joker. But the thing is, it really does this balancing act where, you know, sometimes the Joker comes across people that are legitimate assholes, and then some people who actually try to help him. Like I actually felt bad for Maury when he dies because I'm like he didn't really deserve that because like the only reason he lashes out against Joker is because the Joker did like legitimately horrible things.
Yeah. And I'd almost be curious if this movie gets a movie novelization, like most of the other DC films
That'd be
have
interesting
had.
to see
Because exactly, like I'd be interested in seeing because knowing how movie novelizations work, I'd be interested to see how that would dive into what he's thinking at the time.
Because the thing with a lot of novels is they often are done with an earlier version of the script. For example,
Spider-Man.
well, actually, I'm from my childhood. I read the Toy Story novel, Toy Story 2 novelization before I actually saw the movie, and in that the second Buzz, you know, the Buzz that gets
the one
free,
with the belt.
yeah, the one with the belt. You know how like the whole scene with Zurg, how he's his father, and then like after Zurg falls off the elevator shaft, like they play ball because he's broken, but he still kind of works. In the novelization, that Zurg just dies. And like, there's no like cute scene with like him playing ball. He literally goes to bury.
And you can't
Zurg.
necessarily make something like that for kids.
No, you can't. Although to be fair, I feel like Disney and Pixar could get away with it if they did.
Maybe back then, yeah.
And you like
Not so much now,
but getting back to your Spider-Man one, if you want to explain.
Basically, in the Spider-Man 1 novelization, there are certain scenes in the book that are like actually deleted scenes. Basically, scenes that like. That as someone like me who's seen that movie countless times, I know the movie by heart.
Yeah.
Reading the book, I was like, okay, now wait a minute, like this didn't happen in the movie. You know what I mean? So like I was kind of like, and then I kind of like did a little bit of digging, and it's like there are deleted scenes that are in the book. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And kind of going back to what Adam was talking about, how novelizations often run on a earlier version of the script. The Spider-Man 1 novelization is really front heavy. Like up to the middle of the movie, basically, like when the Green Goblin goes after MJ, that's probably about like 250 pages.
And not only that, like
the final 30 minutes of the movie are probably like 20 pages.
Yeah,
like the book wraps itself up so quickly, and I'm like, we're already at this part. Like I thought there was gonna be more, basically.
Yeah,
right.
Because like there's a lot more stuff about Mary Jane, like more about Flash's relationship with her,
about how Harry gets MJ to date him. Like, there's actually an interesting scene in the novelization where
Peter tries to ask MJ out and it doesn't work, and then Harry asks why he doesn't, and then basically Peter gives this whole speech about why he's in love with MJ.
That actually takes place after graduation.
Oh, sorry.
That's when that takes place. But basically, the one I'm thinking of is that basically when she breaks up with Flash at graduation, you know, he says, "You're going to regret this." You know what I mean? They really nail that home in the book because that audition MJ leaves in the movie where she's like, you know, like a soap opera told me I needed acting lessons. The lady running that was Flash's aunt, and she failed her out just purely out of spite because she's like, "You broke up with my."
Yeah, because doesn't she actually? They actually say that the aunt said that like she was the best one, like the.
Yeah, but because she broke up with you, I'm not gonna put her on. So there you go.
Basically the one I liked. Basically explains why she chooses Harry over Peter.
Is that basically Peter explained to Harry, like, you know, like, this is what I think of MJ, you know, and all this stuff. And then later when MJ actually comes by to ask Peter out, and he's not home. She runs into Harry. Harry quotes it verbatim back to her and gets her to go out on a date with him.
Yeah, showing that Harry's kind of a scummy asshole like his dad. But
getting back to the topic.
But yeah, like I would really like to see like maybe some of the because especially because like a novel can do a lot more expansion on, because like for one thing I honestly was surprised by the runtime of this movie.
So was I, actually.
It's only like 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was surprisingly.
I think isn't Wonder Woman even a little longer?
Yeah, it was surprisingly short for a superhero film. But then again, normally you and I are used to watching like 3-hour long opuses.
Endgame. Like,
or you, Mister, I want to watch the extended cut of Watchmen. That's 5 hours long.
I do have a question for you two. What was your guys' take on his self-awareness of his mental illness? Because he even tells the guy who gave him the gun, like, you know, I'm not supposed to have this. Like,
to me, if that happened, going back to the theory I had that like none of this happened. To me, like as someone who lives with mental illness, like I said, like I have like depression, anxiety, OCD, all this other shit. You're aware of it. Like when I'm in a very, very like sad mood because of my depression at night, I'm aware, hey, I'm feeling this because of my depression. But at the same time, it's like your brain is like kind of like a hamster on a wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't stop itself, basically.
Right.
Like you're aware of it, but you can't stop.
Yeah.
But how aware do you think he is? That's where I'm like.
To me, I
that's
think
the
he's
million-dollar
well. To
question.
me, like again, going back to the whole "I'm tired of pretending," I kind of think it's him trying to pretend because that's what you're supposed to do. Like he's supposed to, you're supposed to, like he says, I'm not supposed to have this. I'm not supposed to have a gun. I'm not supposed to have power. I'm not supposed to kill people. I'm supposed to do this and this and this.
Yeah,
to take my medications.
it's almost like he's trying to conform to society instead of being himself.
Yeah,
And
instead of
honestly his most
yeah.
inner turmoil is with himself, trying to be himself.
To me,
to kind of go along with that, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is a thought I had real quick. What if there's actually just nothing wrong with him? And by what I mean by there's nothing wrong with him is that the line like I'm sick of pretending like that it wasn't funny. What if there is like what if
he's just a serial killer?
There's nothing wrong with him per se, like mental illness. Like there's a reason why he did this. He just does this. Because he's fucked up.
He's still technically.
Yeah, but it's not like to the extent that it is depicted.
Yeah.
Well, it almost makes me wonder why he was in the asylum in the first place. Because
they never really say why.
He has to see the therapist and he has to get his meds. When she leaves, he stops taking his meds.
Well, partially he does, and also partially because he can't get his meds because he no longer has.
So it makes me wonder, what did he do first
to get in there?
Yeah, and they never explain that.
Right, and then why? Like, what the what actually is going on? Because if he's just a serial killer, not necessarily meds you can do for that.
Well,
and being in this, you obviously have like psyche evaluation.
Yeah, there's obviously something wrong with him, but not like.
But we don't. He doesn't
like if
escalate.
I lash out at somebody, like that's either because like.
But you don't.
One
see
of my shit's acting up. Like I've had friends where when I've been in a very depressive mood, I've lashed out.
Oh yeah.
And automatically it's like like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that, and I'm like I apologize for it. With Arthur, it's almost like that instinct afterwards, that immediate trigger X thing that it's like I shouldn't have done that. It's not entirely there.
See,
which makes me think like, what was actually wrong with him?
Yeah.
And what did he just fabricate in his head to kind of like, this is the justification?
Because you don't see him really lash out, or you don't start to even question anything until after he stops taking his meds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because until that point, you see the great relationship with his mom.
Yeah.
You see the relationship with that woman. You see him actually. He's not necessarily functioning with his job, but
he's trying.
He just seems like a normal struggling man. And then you realize he's stopped taking his meds.
Yeah.
He's now, at this point, killed the guys on the subway.
Mm-hmm.
Then the coworker, and let the midget go.
Yeah.
It's still one of my funny scenes, man. And then
It's so I really want to know from that director, like, did you really make it funny?
To be fair, you could argue that it's kind of where, like, because now the Joker, because he's kind of accepted himself, like, you
Right.
know, it's like it's okay to laugh now, kind of like.
it's almost a coming out story for
Yeah.
me than it is an origin story.
Yeah.
It's more or less him becoming himself.
Yeah.
Not to say, you know, he's a good guy, but yeah, everybody should be themselves.
But like, you know, he tried, like, basically, you know, he tried to live to society's standards, and then more he had one bad day and saw the sick, demented joke that he thinks the world is.
Right.
Although, to be fair, the other protagonist in this film also had a bad day, and he saw the joke and decided it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Because that's my thing about the Joker and the Batman, because both characters are created by tragedy. Something horrible and tragic happens to them, and they lose all sense of the world.
But there's different endpoints.
But basically, one turned inward and decided to lash out to the rest of the world. And then the other side decided, no, I'm not going to blame the rest of the world for what happened to me. I'm going to try and fix it.
Well, and I almost want to say that, like,
Although, to be fair, in this, they kind of try to imply that, like, you know, because of him, is like, no, we see the world for what it is. We're going to fix it ourselves. But they don't.
what
really.
really gets me, and I think it's partially what made me uncomfortable with this movie, watching it, was that it's just the entire thing of, like, what is actually real in this damn movie.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that kind of thing, like, and along with, like, you know, the mental illness stuff in it, like,
Yeah.
as someone who deals with it, it's like, it's just real. The whole movie really made me uncomfortable, and I'm sure that was the intent.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's kind of like a reason why, like, I probably won't revisit this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna be something like Wonder Woman or like Batman, probably even Batman and Robin. That I'll throw in something in the background or like sit down, like, you know, I want to watch a movie. What am I gonna watch? I'm gonna watch this. Like, I think overall it was a good movie. I think artistically it was a phenomenal piece.
Yeah, the soundtrack is really good too.
The soundtrack's really good, yeah. But
Like,
8.5, 9 out of 10 for me.
but there's a difference between being, and for me this kind of goes back to the critics loved this movie. When it debuted, there was a standing ovation for it.
I mean, they loved it except for the fact that there was no massacre caused by this movie, unfortunately.
Well, not those. We're talking film critics.
I know.
But to me, there's a difference between being a great film artistically and a great film via like viewer, as a viewer. As a viewer, this is some pretty heavy shit
Yeah.
that it's like I wouldn't necessarily want to just watch for fun.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Cause like I like it, but it's gonna be a long time before I pop it in again. Cause it's just,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
not something you would watch at a party.
But depending on how they go forward, that could be a great origin movie.
no
Yeah.
doubt. Like I feel like they.
'Cause I look back at some of the origin movies for Marvel. Yeah, they're a lot more action packed and they have a lot more lightheartedness to them. But none of them go that far deep into someone's psyche and character. Like
Yeah.
I personally feel the Joker did.
I think the only movie, DC wise, even that's really done it like this has been Batman Forever, where we kind of examine Bruce's.
I mean, you can kind of see it in like the
Psychology?
Doctor Strange movie, where you see
Yeah.
his struggle, like
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to overcome his mental barriers, like trying to like
you know, until
but, like-
eventually he gets so desperate. You know, when he does the
Yeah.
teach me.
yeah. And but
Well, to be fair, I think a lot of that goes to Benedict Cumberbatch being a really phenomenal actor.
Oh, definitely.
and but that's the only thing I could think of close to at least the in-depth psyche of like the character you're trying to establish.
Yeah.
I guess you could also kind of argue the Nolan Batman films, but to be fair, most of the in-depthness that he does is very on the nose / I'm just telling you shit because I don't think you're smart enough to figure it out.
Just fly by the seat of my pants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here I actually, because sometimes I think a movie is good where it just says, you know, hey, I'm not going to tell you anything. You're going to have to put this together your own.
Yeah. And I think that's really a strength of this movie, especially with the
Oh,
ending. Is that
totally.
the ending is, as we've discussed, the ending is so open-ended that there's no definitive answer. Basically, we're kind of left to like think like what actually happened
Yeah.
here.
Now, I was talking to my dad because we were talking about this as far as it relating to previous DC movies, and the only thing I could think of was Suicide Squad, and you think of not necessarily that Joker,
Oh, yeah.
but you see the gang, and
Yeah.
it's almost like an origin for the gang more than it is him.
Oh yeah, and
Because
that,
you see necessarily the rise, like the clown stuff, and then they all have like this motive, like it's against the higher up Wall Street, it's all
Yeah.
this and stuff. It's almost like a pull together for that, more than it is a character for Joker at the end.
yeah.
Because you get the build up for Joker the whole time, and you almost get to see like how all that started, how he got his group, how he got the gang, and you almost got to think. Is that where it all started.
Yeah.
And another thing I noticed too, on watching the movie is that all the background stuff going on, like all the riots and stuff,
Yeah.
that's never in a clear focus until
No,
the end.
it never is.
Like, and I think honestly that could be another hint to how, this is none of this is really real. He's making
Yeah,
it up
especially because like the Joker, he
especially 'cause,
thinks
like
he,
you see like he's looking at like there's newspapers that show it. It's on TV. If you were watching something, you know what I mean, like that, or you were reading something, you'd be able to remember it really clearly. But here, it's almost like in the background, it's like a hazy like background.
Well, and even then, like
And
that scene
whether
when
or
he goes
not
to
that's like an indication like this isn't real, or if
Yeah.
it's just like his mental state is that fractured that he doesn't. It's not
Yeah.
directly happening in front of him, so he doesn't pay attention.
because when he wants to go see Thomas Wayne, he walks through that crowd. Like that crowd is rioting and like beating up police, and he just walks through it like. I just gotta get through here so I can get to see my dad.
Yeah.
Like that is because like to me, it's funny you mention that because like
You'd think there'd be more security for a guy like
Oh,
Thomas
yeah,
Wayne.
def-
Like, you just
it's-
meets
it's
the dude in the bathroom.
1970s, though.
it's 70s Gotham City. Let's be
but
real here.
you definitely think there would be something.
Well,
At
yeah.
the very least, Alfred.
Well, yeah, but like Mayor Stoke or Mayor Hill or whatever the hell this mayor is named is a corrupt asshole.
Chief
probably,
O'Hara.
yeah, is a corrupt asshole and probably was like, nah, Wayne don't need no protection. He can just get murdered by the scum of this city. So that way I can keep being mayor and I can keep working for Falcone or Zuko or whatever mob boss is running Gotham at this point.
Yeah.
But that's just me being a cynical comic book guy. But yeah, I think we've kind of talked about everything we could talk about in this movie.
Yeah.
So I guess we should probably wrap things up.
You guys want to do out of 10s?
Yeah, we can do that.
Out of 5, I'm gonna give it 4 Joker smiles.
For me, I'm gonna give it a solid 9 laughing fish out of 10. Because like, I stopped to giving it a 10, but to be fair, I don't give a lot of 10s, mostly because
We're hard to impress.
well, no, for me, I look at this. While it's very good, I know that there are a lot of people who are going to watch this and hate that it really doesn't give you a lot of answers, and it gives you more questions or gives you even more questions than you had before.
Well, in addition, you're gonna have people that look to this movie and are like, "Oh, this is,
Oh, yeah,
this is my movie." It's like,
We've already, like you and I go
The memes.
yeah, the
The neckbeard
memes. Oh my
memes.
god! But to be fair, I don't fault the movie for that.
no, that's not the movie's fault.
But-
You can't fault a movie for interpretation.
I also, and much as I hate saying this, I feel like this movie is going to get a lot of flack later on down the line just because of the fact that it's not a superhero movie, but like that's the thing, it wasn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be a character study and like showing that while the Joker is a fun character, he's still a monster. And I think a lot of people also kind of forget that with the character because sometimes they kind of don't see the forest for the trees
Yeah.
Yet.
But otherwise, I think it is a solid film, and like I think it's not just a good DC comic movie. I think it's just a good movie in general.
Yeah.
And if it gets if no it doesn't get to win any awards, I'm gonna be pissed just because the Academy and Oscars can screw themselves because they did it purely because it's a comic book movie.
Yeah. Fuck Martin Scorsese and his. Superhero movies aren't cinema shit. Go get the hell out of here.
Says the man who made gangster movies, which used to be the lowest common denominator kind of movie you could go see.
I give her 9 red noses. Mainly just for the. It was, like I said, a great movie. I thought the topic itself. Mental illness is a really touchy topic.
And I do think it handles it very well.
I thought
It's definitely a hard thing to pull off.
and I thought it did I'll say phenomenal job as far as portraying it in a way to where it's not necessarily.
Where you understand.
Yeah, it's not like a group of people. It's a specific person.
Yeah.
You're not. The movie itself just dove straight into Arthur.
Yeah.
And his not necessarily battle with the mental illness, which I guess you could.
Yeah, it's Arthur and every day that he's walking down
It's
the
more or less
street,
battle with society,
and everybody that you meet has a different point of view. And I say, hey,
Damn it, we're gonna get flagged for copyright.
my only gripe is it's not necessarily bad to have a slow build up.
yeah,
But
but
a slow build up to a real quick climax.
yeah, I think that's
Because the biggest climax
It felt like
is
there
the
was stuff
subway
missing.
scene and the Maury show.
Which again, I almost feel like maybe that was a choice in editing, is to make it kind of go back to more like what's real, that there's stuff missing.
yeah, probably.
And when I watched it, I didn't watch any of the deleted scenes or anything.
Yeah, that's gonna be another problem. Like I think people will have with this film, because much like the 2014 Godzilla, there's a lot of build up, and then the climax is very
little monster.
well and very fast. But to be fair, that's a problem. Even other like I think it just depends on how much you're willing to let the burn build up. For me, I don't mind a good slow burn. The only time I
There's
think
gotta be a payoff at the end.
yeah,
Right.
the only, like for example, Castle of Fu Manchu, which I've seen, is like just 2 hours of watching people at computers and doing absolutely jack shit. A movie so bad even Mystery Science Theater couldn't make it funny. And but that's me I think that can be good, but I think it's a hat trick that it's hard to pull off.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it does very good. And like I said, if you felt uncomfortable, about like the mental illness stuff, I understand. Just make sure you find someone to talk to about it. Because like it's a touchy subject, but it's something it is important to talk about.
And for those of you that aren't struggling with mental illness and know that someone that is, don't entirely count on them to reach out. Reach out to them as well, because sometimes it can be hard to reach out to somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, on that note, I do have one more complaint. I was saddened by the fact that Arthur never wore his traditional yellow sweater vest that whole movie, and the fact that he didn't look like an aardvark.
Walking down the street.
And the fact that he didn't look like an aardvark. I was really bothered by that. Also the fact that
that fist back there.
also the fact that DW didn't become Harley Quinn at the end of this.
All
God.
right.
Now we're getting there. But on that
Look,
note,
I had to get us back up to happy, because we got some pretty somber places there.
but on that note, that's gonna do it for this episode of Remember the Hyphen. I'm Average Joe Squad.
I'm Zongetsu 134.
I'm still just Cody.
And as always, we ask you to remember the hyphen.
Forget it.
Take care. You son of a bitch.